Hi everyone, Janice here from sunny Gibraltar, and it is very hot. I think it's a heat wave pretty much everywhere in the world, and I'm sitting outside on the balcony, and we have a little bit of a breeze here, but I hope it's not going to be very noisy in the camera and you can hear what I'm going to say. Today I will be telling you guys about how much we spend a month living here in Gibraltar, because I do get quite often a question how expensive it is to live in Gibraltar and how much money you need to live here a month. And it's very hard to answer because everyone is different, and it all depends what you prefer. Of course, how much you're eating, or going to restaurants, or how much electricity or water you're spending. So it's, of course, obviously it will be all individual, but I will tell you a little bit about what it costs to us to be here. And so I live here with my husband and my parents, so it is 4 of us. And water and electricity we do not try to save, we use it just every time wherever we need. We are not counting or anything. Of course, there will be, I will give you a rate is roughly a month what we're spending, but of course it will be plus minus. Some months it will be higher, some will be lower. For example, with electricity is also hard because it was very warm winter and we pretty much didn't use the heaters. Only sometimes we using it in the evenings when it gets a little bit chilly. Like my parents, they have electrical blankets, so for example they would use them during the night, they would put them on, and for a few hours they would keep them on. But during the day we don't use heaters at all in winter. And in summer months, again, we don't use very often air conditioners or ventilators. We still use them when it's very hot, like for example during the day it gets hot, and of course we will put them on. But during the evening, in the evenings we have they're very quite cool here, because we live in Marina, as you can see behind me. A little bit of sea out there somewhere hiding, and in Marina Bay, Ocean Village, it's very often we do have a lot of wind, and it actually helps in summer to feel cooler here compared to if it would be in town. For example, probably over there I would have used the aircon all the time, and that's why it's kind of a bit different. We are also using quite a lot of electricity. Like we have, well, I don't know if we're using too much electricity or not, but for example my parents, they have TVs, then we have TV, my husband has a big TV and I have a small also TV, so we have 4 at least running very often. Like my parents constant watching TV, and probably like through the night my dad watches quite a lot, so like midnight, 2 a.m. we still can have TVs on. I'm not very often watching TV, my husband more often. And we do have like 3 computers, like 2 would run days and nights mostly. And yeah, so that's all pretty much. We also, of course, we have electrical stoves. We don't have gas here, so of course all the cooking and tea, coffee is all going to be done with the electricity. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A little bit about how we spend it. Like, so on water, let's say we spend about £43 a month. But like as I'm saying, £43 a month. Some months I remember we had like £30 and even 20 something pounds. Some months would be more like £50 up to, but not higher. But usually, roughly, it's about 40 something pounds a month we're spending. Also, they have now put £5 a month we're paying for meter, which wasn't there before. I think before COVID, maybe they started to do it after the pandemic. But we do have a bit of the help from the government. They're paying some against the monthly costs for water, and also they're paying like half towards the electricity. So electricity we spend about, you see, 110, 120 pounds a month. So plus minus, again, it could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but roughly we do have 110 pounds. Okay, so then of course again it will depends if you are own the property in Gibraltar or you're renting, you need to consider, like for example, studio prices a month would cost from about 700, 800 pounds, and of course the prices are going higher. Like if you want to rent like a 3-bedroom property, it would probably cost about 3,000 pounds, slightly more than 3,000 pounds. So you need to consider that. So if you own the property, obviously, then you will be paying service charges and property rates. So we own our property, and of course it all depends how big it is. We have about nearly 200 square meters, so it's quite big, but actually we do have it's 2 properties together, so that's why we do pay quite a bit of service charges, 6,000 pounds a year. So that's a little bit, quite a bit. So that means a month it's roughly 500 pounds, right? And property rate is 75 pounds a month. Okay, so that means total on service charges, property rates, electricity, water bill, we are spending about 730 pounds a month, for example, right? So that's kind of what it's ended up, plus minus. So let's say 750, 800 a month. So that's all. Now, what we spend on the next, of course, healthcare, right? So we do have to pay. For example, as I'm self-employed, and the rate is for self-employed is between 123 pounds 50 minimum and 218.83 maximum. Okay, it all depends how much you earned. So it is basically 20% a month from your earnings, but the minimum and the maximum you have, so you wouldn't pay more than 283 a month. And my parents unfortunately are not entitled to social health care, and we have to get them private health care, which is also depends because they're older. Mom is nearly 70, my dad is over 70, but my mom had severe stroke, so that's kind of problems. We do pay 900 pounds a month of healthcare, and this is not like full cover, because like the first whatever 1,000, 2,000 we have to pay, and then the rest covers by the insurance. Because if we would, for example, go for the full cover, it would cost over 1,000 pounds, like 1,200 to 1,500 pounds. So it's quite expensive, private healthcare here. And so that's why we decided to take the one which not fully covered, but with a bit that the first amount we have to put in ourselves. Okay, and also, for example, medication, like for mom, we buying also separately. It's like we're spending on her medication about 100 pounds also a month on top of this. So let's say roughly we are ending up paying like whatever 1,500 up to like 1,500 on healthcare a month. So that's what we get. So like in total now we have like 1,800 to about 2,000 pounds, let's say, all in total. Roughly that's what cost us with all electricity, water, service charges, property rates, and healthcare, right? So about end up is about 2,000 pounds. So then we will talk about, let's say, food, restaurants, like petrol, diesel. We have diesel car. So for example, we don't use car in Gibraltar at all. We only use it to go to Spain. That's why I didn't even start to count, because we don't go very often and it doesn't apply to Gibraltar. So that's why I didn't put it in. It all will be individual, of course. We use buses everywhere, so I would say we basically not spending anything on on the car or on petrol. Okay, so but you do know that of course it's cheaper here. I actually forgotten what the rate is now. I think it was 110 or 115 or something per liter, but I don't remember now, but it's definitely cheaper than in Europe. But anyway, so for example, on food, of course, again, it would be very individual. We don't eat it very much. So well, roughly we spend, I think we spend roughly, I didn't calculate, we are not really counting it all the time, but I think we spend about £500 a month, which also gone up. Before pandemic it was less than that. I'm sure it was, it must have been, I remember we were spending about 100 to 100 a month, but now it's definitely gone up a bit higher. And going to restaurants, we of course now we started to go a little bit more often, but my parents don't go to restaurants, so that's why when we are going with my husband, we usually just spend about between 30 to 50 pounds every time we go. So that's again, we don't drink much, like for example we don't spend any money like on alcohol, on cigarettes, something like this. And also when we go to restaurants, the maximum we would get cider, and we don't drink a lot. So maybe I don't know how many times we would go a month, but maybe about 300 pounds, I would say, maybe we would spend on going to restaurants and cafes. I wouldn't count, of course, when we go to just a cafe shop, we would just spend probably about 10 pounds, like a cup of coffee and a pasty. So yeah, I think something like this we would spend. So total, I would say, for us to live here in Gibraltar, it's cost us about 3,000, 3,500, up to 4,000 a month to, let's say, and I'm not putting, of course, here the buying like clothes, okay? Also, not counting this, but obviously clothes you can buy here. It's I think it's pretty much the same. I mean, basically you do know that it's for like drinks, alcohol is cheaper here in Gibraltar. Clothes, I think it's about the same as in the UK, but we don't have much of the choice, so that's why mostly we are going and shop in Spain. The same as actually with food, spending £500 a month, saying that I'm also very often go to Spain and buy groceries out there. But like I was saying, like previously I remember going to, we would go how many times, like once a week we would usually go and spend probably about 60 euros per trip. Now we're definitely spending 100 euros per trip, so yeah. And some bits we're buying here in Gibraltar, and also it depends, like whatever we're buying would be about the same, like 30 pounds or something per trip, and like between 10 to 30 pounds, so it all depends, but roughly that's what I was saying, about 500 pounds plus minus, all depends of the season and what the seasonal we buy. Like fruits could be like berries and fruits, they could be cheaper in summer times, of course, compared to winter times when it's off season. So it's, you know, the prices are something like this, but they also went up in here too, so like just everywhere. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to tell you guys. That's how much it cost us, and like pretty much comfortable living, not counting and trying to save. Like energy crisis doesn't really bother us here because we don't have gas here, and government is helping towards this electricity and water bills. So I think it's all kind of works out quite alright here. And of course the healthcare is, I think that the most expensive, of course, would be if you are planning on moving to Gibraltar, is the property. To buy properties kind of quite costly, right? And especially if you're looking into mortgage, to get mortgage, because the rates are quite high. Obviously in Gibraltar rates are the same, depends on Bank of England. I don't know, maybe there are some any options they do anything else, but pretty much wherever the interest rates going up, that means the mortgage cost of so as you can see the charges for the accommodation. But like I'm saying, for us we have two combined apartments, but if it's one, it's probably going to be slightly cheaper, but then depends also how big the development where you will be living, so it will be different rates. And healthcare is very expensive. It's a private healthcare, is very expensive. That's the most expensive. Everything else, presume you see like food, restaurants, water, electricity is quite reasonable, quite okay. And yeah, and the good is that we don't need to use the car. Yes, not all the time, only going to Spain. That's really good, because you would feel when you do really need to use your car every day and go wherever, walk and spend hours in traffic jams, and you would add to your expenses. But here we don't use that. So that's it for now, guys. I hope this video was interesting, maybe useful for some of you. If you like the video, of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in my next video. Bye everyone, bye.